We'll move on to next topic this evening, and it's the fight for California in the NFC West. Two teams are in the same division, the LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously very big in the Californian region, that fight for the NFC. And we're going to sort of look and compare their drafts, I suppose, and what that means for the balance and the equilibrium of the Rams, who had a very bad season last year, but did have Stafford very injured for about most of it, and a lot of their team was pretty injured for most of it. The 49ers, obviously, an incredible year with the rise of Brock Purdy in a market in California that is they have a lot of exposure there. So it's going to be interesting to look at. We'll look at the Rams draft to begin with. He says look at the Rams draft to begin with. The article I loaded up earlier has just decided to not work, but now it has. So they took Jared Verse with their first pick in the number 19. The first pick they've had it since 2014, I believe. Jared Goff was their last pick on with that as well. The second pick being Braden Fisk, round 2. Didn't they play together at Florida State as well? I saw a very lovely Instagram today of they were going to get Jared Verse to ring Fisk to pick him. Say you've been picked, and actually was running about 5 minutes late and did get there while they were on the phone. So we had a very emotional chat to each other, which is really great to see. Round 3, they took Blake Corum, running back out of Michigan. Round 3 again, Cameron Kitchens from Miami. And then Brennan Jackson in the 5th round, and Tyler Davis in the 6th. Joshua Carty in the 6th as well. Jordan Whittington in the 6th wide receiver. Sorry, the article I've got is just decided to make everything very small, so I'm trying to focus on that. Bo Limmer, Lyman in the 6th as well. I mean, lots of picks. Katie Leviston, offensive lineman at Kansas State as well. And on the San Francisco side of the ball, hopefully this article won't be really tiny. They took Ricky Pearsall with the 31st pick. Renardo Green with the 2nd pick, cornerback. Dominic Pooney, offensive lineman in the 3rd. The 4th round, Malik Mustafa, safety. Running back Isaac Guerrero. Yeah, go on. That's going to be your name now, Isaac. Jacob Carring, wide receiver in the 4th. Jarrett Kingston, the 6th. Tatum Bethune, the linebacker, in the 7th. Sorry, a lot of names in a very short amount of time there. Andrew, we're going to start with you on this because it was you that brought this topic to the table. A lot of picks by both teams, and a lot of two teams that are very polarizing, very exciting, and teams that had a lot of drama surrounding them as well. You know, Aaron Donald retiring for the Rams, and then the constant trade rumor of Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel in San Francisco. Two great stories coming out of both of them. Nothing really happened with the Ayuk and Deebo Samuel positions on the night in terms of trading them. Obviously, the Ricky Pearsall drafting is sort of echoed them rumors out to more people. But what's your take here? I mean, the battle for the NFC West and of California is definitely heating up.
Yeah, I just think with looking at what the Rams did in the whole off season, not just the draft, I feel like they're one of the big wins massively of it. You know, they went and spent a load of money on that O-line. They brought in left tackle, they brought in Ulrich Jackson and Jonah Jackson as well. They managed to convert Kevin Dotson into a great guard as well. So they spent loads of money on that O-line. It looks really, really strong. And then looking at what they did in the draft in bringing in Jared Verse, who for me was one of the top edges in this whole draft class, and Brendan Fisk as well. They're both really high football IQ guys, really quality, like intelligent players, and Blake Corum as well. We've said all along that McVay likes to run his running backs into the ground until they can't run anymore and they're done and then they're out the league. And then he's gone and supported Kyren Williams, which I think we're all shocked at, and bringing in someone that's going to complement him perfectly in Blake Corum. I just think the way they've structured and the way they're built and looking at them going forward, I think they might have slowly started to overtake the 49ers and where they're at. And there's a chance for them, for me this year, to maybe top the division. I think that there's a possibility. We don't know what's going on with the wide receivers at the 49ers. Obviously, Pearsall was the first pick for them, but no movement has been made with Deebo or Ayuk, which I was shocked. I really thought a player from someone's team, whether it be Higgins or Ayuk or Deebo, would have got dealt within the draft. And the fact that it hasn't happened, I'm unsure when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen, and then that kind of leaves them in a bit of a weird situation. But yeah, I just feel I wanted to bring it to the table because I personally feel the off season they were one of my biggest winners, the free agency and the draft. So even Kitchens as well. He was one of my top safeties I had. He was one of my top 5 safeties, and that's just a steal as well. So yeah, I just think for me they've moved above the 49ers slightly in my rankings going forward.
Adam, I'll go to you. We're talking maybe a bit more about the 49ers. Andrew's very much focused on the Rams draft day there, or draft weekend there. What have you thought of the 49ers draft weekend? Were you shocked that Ayuk and Debo weren't there on the night in the first round or even over the weekend?
Yeah, it felt like everything was trending that way, didn't it? And then the fact that Ricky Pearsall got drafted in the first round, which I think a lot of people were thinking, is he a first round talent? Is he not? He's kind of, hovering around with like where Keon Coleman went and all of that. You sort of feel like he's either going to be the bottom of the first, top of the second. The fact that happened, it kind of felt like a trade made sense. If they don't, then Pearsall's just going to kind of be sitting there twiddling his thumbs a little bit. I mean, so I don't really know what he's going to do for them that much. So that was a little bit strange. I like Pearsall. I just don't think he's going to see much of the field with them two still there. And then the rest of it, it was all kind of a bit, it's okay. It's not anything amazing. Ronaldo Green, not a massive fan. I felt like that was a bit of a, of all the corners that were around, not brilliant. I think Dominic Puny out of Kansas, I think he could probably start as a tackle. He could be in a rotation, so he'd be okay. And I think Garendo will be good in the Shanahan offense. I do think that he will be ideal for them. The rest of it, I didn't really think that much about it. I just felt like the Rams did. If you want to compare the two, I think the Rams was just a much better draft in general. Given the fact that, they picked up like Bo Limmer and Katie Leviston in the 6th and the 7th, and these guys are capable of being starters like straight away. And I just think if you're picking guys like that up in the 6th and the 7th rounds, that's enough to, that's what you need to do in order to be able to get yourself a really good team. And I just kind of felt like the 49ers didn't really do that as well as the Rams did.
Sky, the Rams obviously infamously last year taking Puka Nacua in a very, very late round, and we all know about the sort of season he had in the end. He was absolutely fantastic, and they, though have not been at the top of the drafts a lot of time in history, it feels like now they do tend to draft pretty good. Do you think with the success of Puka Nacua last year that there is a pressure on the Rams that they're expected to hit on their draft picks, because they've gone down the board and they've picked some guys and been able to scoop some guys in the late rounds who probably shouldn't have been sat there in some people's eyes. How impressed have you been with the Rams here?
Yeah, it must have been weird for the Rams to have, was it 10 picks in total, 5 offense and 5 defense? Yeah, first round choice since 2016. I think getting Verse in is almost like we talk about some of those bust-proof type picks. You lose Aaron Donald. You need to talk
about. I was also sorry to interrupt you, but every mock had him going at 10.
Yeah,
to the Bears. To 10 to the Bears.
And I think even people had him at the Saints. I think I did in one of my mocks. So I think they've done well to get him there. And I'm impressed with the Rams. But like you said, there's a pressure now, right? Because there was a narrative last year of they don't have any draft picks. Who's this Nacua guy? And then he has, one contender for Rookie of the Year. You now got him, Cooper Kupp. We've still got Matthew Stafford, if they can keep him upright, elite arm talent. So the pressure's there. I really like the comparison that Andrew sort of brought to the table, because it just sort of feels the same. They finished 2 games behind the 49ers. You had the Eagles lost the Super Bowl when they finished 2 games ahead of the Cowboys. And then Dallas, obviously we just spoke about how bad their offseason was this year, but last year they made the right moves. And it almost feels like the Rams have made the right moves to say, okay, the 49ers could be a bit weak here. There could be a Super Bowl hangover. They haven't addressed pass rush issues. I think they probably need to get some people to help out with with Nick Bosa. And I think, like Adam said, I don't think the moves they've made in the secondary, other than Rock Ya-Sin, I think, you know, getting guys like Chase Lucas, who was a practice squad player on the Lions, and the two guys they've drafted are, I mean, Andrew and Adam know more than me, but not people I'm convinced by. So, yeah, I know I went on to the Niners there, but that adds to the argument, right? The Rams have made all the steps in the right way, and the Niners, it's just a thing that we're all guilty of when a team's successful. What could they have done to address their needs? But it still feels like that there's been a lot of overthinking there. So, yeah, in short, I like what the Rams have done, but they do need to prove themselves because, it's all well and good getting diamonds in the rough in the later rounds, but this first round needs to work out for them to continue and potentially win the division next year.
Joining the 49ers, obviously Super Bowl losers of this season just gone, and obviously been in the Super Bowl mix for the last few seasons, and then the Rams really formally, but before them were in that Super Bowl mix. I mean, it felt like at one point that gap was humongous, and now do you feel like it is closer than ever where they can compete for that sort of King of California in the NFC title?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with what Andrew and Sky said. I think the Rams have drafted so well for a number of years. It's unbelievable that they've not had a first round pick for almost a decade. What was it, 2016? And they've been able to, pick up guys like, last year, Byron Young was, I think, the sack leader last year. Unbelievable first starter. They've rebuilt their offensive line. They've added talent. I like what both teams have done. I think the 49ers was, like we've already mentioned, I think a little bit underwhelming because, Ricky Pearsall, I think, was the one of the players I think was perhaps a little bit of a surprising pick, especially given that they, haven't traded away Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. But I think from reading up on the players, they've signed players who've got, a lot of experience, who are tough, physical, and I think, fit in with the mantra, not necessarily being, starting players who will be superstars. But I think the 49ers, aren't in a bad place, not for a long stretch. They're still, one of the, the best teams in the NFL. I just don't know if they have improved at all this season compared to last. So, very interesting to see how these teams match up next year. I think, the X factor of McCaffrey, Purdy is something that, with Puka and Stafford, I'm not sure they match up. So we'll see. I think what I'm trying to say is it's not been a disaster for the Niners, but I think the pressure is on to see where Deebo or Ayuk end up. Because it feels like it isn't going to be in San Francisco. But then again, what is the value of trading away at the moment, especially with the draft that's been and gone. But we'll see.